Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Today, January 1, 2018. Oh my. We're moving right along in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. This is a continuation of this book review, Talisman, Sacred Cities, Secret Faith, Graham Hancock, famous author, many books. We'll be looking at these books and more. You can go watch some of his videos on YouTube. And reading this book, we'll be making videos on it. The Sign and the Seal. Discover the most shattering historical secret of the last 3,000 years. The Quest for the Lost Ark of the Covenant. Graham Hancock. So where I left off on part 2, series 181, was with Manichaeism. I did this just before Christmas. So I thought it might be appropriate to do this one at the beginning of the new year and see if it kind of is an appropriate conversation to have today, the beginning of a new year. What's looming in our future? What has happened in our past? What's going on right now? There's plans that are made for globalism. President Donald Trump announced a couple weeks ago that the United States recognizes Jerusalem as the capital, a long-sought goal of the Zionist Jewish people wanting to fulfill a prophecy and rebuild King Solomon's temple for the third time, and apparently creating some kind of aristocratic society ruling the world from Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And to bring that about, they had the French Revolution, other revolutions, World War I, World War II, 9/11, and so much more. Now they have all these technologies to use against us, weapons, mind control, 5G microwave communication system coming online urgently. Even Congress passing laws that counties and cities and people cannot have a say in the matter, and they're erecting all these microwave transmitters everywhere while they're dumping chemicals in the sky and putting up all these satanic symbols. The Archway of Baal in New York and London, and later through UNESCO, the United Nations, I learned they were putting up 1,000 of these archways, portals to another dimension maybe, all over the world. Who's paying for that? Then, of course, they put the statue of the devil, Baal, in wanted to put it in front of a state building in Oklahoma, but that was nixed. So then they put it on display in Detroit. You can go look all this up. Two-horned devil cuddling a couple little children. Oh my. So anyways, where I was leaving off in this book here, Talisman, we were talking about Manichaeism. And it was from a guy who was spiritually inspired, called Mani, hence Manichaeism. Zoroastrianism is probably for some guy named Zorro, something like that. So they have these different cults named after these people who were communicating with beings from another world. Fallen angels, demons, gray aliens, what are they? So a little background that I read in the last video is probably necessary for this conversation. So Mani later would claim that throughout his childhood, this is a cult, Manichaeism, that is behind some other cults, the Cathars. I went over that in part 2. That throughout his childhood, he had received revelations directly from Ahura Mazda, the father of the light, the god of goodness in the Zoroastrian faith. He also experienced strange and disturbing visitations of the type normally treated today with powerful antipsychotic drugs. In one surviving text, the Kolog Mani Codex, he tells us how he was. And I thought that was interesting. If you know anything about the Peruvian shamans taking ayahuasca, a drug, they go into an induced state and can see the other side. I've talked about that a lot. And even in the series I made on Carlos Castienda, A Separate Reality, where Carlos went down to Mexico and spent some time with a Mexican shaman, a witch doctor, and took peyote and drugs, he could see the other dimension. So our history, including the Bible, angels, spirits, demons, etc., even Jesus in the Bible, cast out unclean spirits and demons. So taking these drugs, they could communicate with the other side. Mediums and psychics channeling material from beings from the other side. Gray aliens appearing in and out of this dimension, popping or walking through a wall. Who are they? Guarded by the might of his light angels, page 79 of this book, and exceedingly strong powers, who had a command from Jesus, the splendor, for my safekeeping. They nourished me with visions and signs, which they made known to me, slight and quite brief, as far as I was able, for sometimes like a flash of lightning he came. So Manny says these light angels were coming to him, giving him information, visions, etc. Hence he creates a cult called Manichaeism. And there were other cults that were derivatives of that, the Cathars, etc. Again, part 1 and part 2 of this book explains more. The being who sometimes came to Manny like a flash of lightning was an angel, one he regarded as a manifestation of his own higher identity and referred to variously as his light self and as the Altom or twin. So he's thinking it's his twin spiritual self. Some of the New Age material says that the spirit that's in me right now is not 100% of my spirit, only a portion. I've gone over this in the some of the channeled material. So a portion of my spirit is in this body, the avatar, and some of it is still in the other reality. And apparently, he thinks that his twin or his other part of his spirit came to him to help him. When Manny was 12 years old, the twin appeared to him in a vision and informed him that he would be responsible for transmitting a great teaching to mankind. Wow. In order to do this, he would have to leave the Ecclesiastians, another cult, at some time in the future. Therefore, the young Manny lived a quiet and studious life, out of the limelight, gathering knowledge in secret, tutored by divine revelations and by his angel. With the greatest possible ingenuity and skill, I went about in that law of the Ecclesiastians, preserving my hope in my heart. No one perceived who it was that was with me. So he didn't want anybody to know that some angel was tutoring and teaching him something. And I myself revealed nothing to anyone during that great period of time. But neither did I, like them, keep a fleshy custom. I revealed nothing of what had happened, or of what will happen, nor what it is that I knew, and what it is that I had received. So that's where I left off in the last video. So I wanted to make a little sidebar here before I start reading. It appears there's a lot of satanic symbolism in our society today. Even in Egypt, they have all these big statues. In Detroit, they put up a statue of Baal, the devil, hugging a couple children. They wanted to put it up on a state building in Oklahoma, but they wouldn't let them. In New York and London, they put up the archway to Baal, the devil. An archway. There's a lot of talk about portals into this other dimension. And then they put one up in London. Later on through UNESCO, I found out they wanted to put up 1,000 of these all over the world. So what are we to think? I guess that's the message for the new year, January 1, 2018. What are we to think? What are we to really, really think with all these satanic symbolisms, movies, events, the video or projection of Kali, the goddess of destruction, on the Empire State Building recently? You can go look it up. And in the 1960s, on Christmas, they would have all these crosses, gigantic crosses, put on these New York City buildings at night. So it went from crosses on the building to demons on the building. That's a bit concerning. A lot of people don't want to believe in any of this stuff. But I did look up something that's interesting. I remembered a proverb from the Bible. He who seeks refuge in me, I shall be thy shield. So apparently they don't want you to believe in God, or pray to God, or believe in God, or seek protection from God. Why? Is there this satanic force at work here? It seems likely. And is there a destruction for Christianity, etc., even in the Islamic people's religion? It seems likely. Even President Donald Trump said so last week, wishing the world, America, Merry Christmas, and he said this sentence: the war on Christianity is over. So if anybody doesn't want to believe there was a war, Mr. President Donald Trump said the war on Christianity is over. But the war on North Korea has just begun. Even Iran in the news. A friend, one of my commenters, sent me a little comment to a Facebook of Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. So if you go look on Facebook, Benjamin Netanyahu, and look at his recent video post, he's saying there's something sinister about Iran wishing the world Merry Christmas. Because apparently Iran has in its prison a couple of American citizens who are Christians. So he's making ill of that, saying nasty things about Iran, that they're hypocritical because wishing the world Merry Christmas while they have 2 Christians in prison. I suspect the Christians in prisons were spies or something. But Israel has been promoting for a long time the evil nature of Iran, as it did historically the Zionist and the Illuminati elitist, the evil nature of Germany. Even that video I made on the book Germany Must Perish before World War II, it called for the entire destruction of every single man, woman, and child in Germany with any German DNA. So if you go look up Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his activities in Fink's bar, you'll see the truth behind that man. So we seem to have this satanic thing going on, this religion that wants to destroy Christianity, that wants to destroy the Islamic religion, that apparently, according to Aleister Crowley in my series 23, the Book of the Law, they don't think very well of the Hindus and the Buddhists either. So I did look this document up, Promises to Those Who Seek God. And I'm not trying to be a religious teacher here. I'm a researcher. I'm going where the path takes me. So I went and looked this up here, the top sentence. You can go look it up. And I know in the Bible, in many places, you can see all these pages here. 6 pages. Of places in the Bible that I'll just read so that you can see. When I go back to this book, it's going to make sense. Psalms 33. Our soul waits for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. From our heart shall rejoice in him, because we have trusted in his holy name. Another one here, it says Psalms 9-9. The Lord also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. And those who know your name will put their trust in you. For you, Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you. And there have been several UFO, alien, gray alien, etc. abductees, people who were abducted by these aliens, who apparently, according to the books and the videos I've been watching, cried out in Jesus' name, and those aliens dropped that victim like a hot potato. And people who are possessed, a lot of people know about exorcism. The priest will call out in Jesus' name and command that demon to leave that person's body. Psalms 14.2, the Lord looks down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there are any who understand, who seek God. So look at it, there's 6 pages here. I'm not going to try to preach this stuff. Naturally. I believe, I've always believed, but only until 2005 and after 9/11/2001, I wanted to figure out what the heck is going on. So 2018 begins my 14th year of research and my 5th year of making videos. And I plan on reviewing all 200 books I've already reviewed in my videos because I know more now. Plus continue to add to the series. I'm up to 181. Got another book selected for 182. And I'm just more knowledgeable, as one might expect from spending that many years. I didn't know back then what I know now. And I'm still learning. None of us can say we know everything. So we're talking about Manichaeism with this religious cult, an angel appearing to him like a flash of lightning in part 2. And we know that if you call on the Lord or Jesus, and maybe in the Islamic people's religion, Muhammad, or in the Buddhist or Hindu, they call upon their deities. I believe these spiritual religions of the world are somewhat connected. There are good teachings and there are evil teachings. So are there good angels and are there fallen angels, archons, watchers? I've been making videos on these entities, whatever they are. So this is just more of the investigation, reading this stuff about the Talisman, a famous author, Graham Hancock, Sacred Cities, Secret Faith. I was watching a video today with Fritz Springmeier, and I discovered in Prague, Germany, in the Bohemian area, that there are like 426 statues representing some kind of demonic entities in that city. It's supposed to be one of the ghostly, mysterious cities of the world. So I need to examine those statues and see if they're part of the stuff I'm studying here, which I suspect it is. Alright, so now we know about Manny communicating with the angel, thinking it was his light self or the twin spirit of his own. and he's getting divine revelations by his angel. It was probably during this period of learning that Manny honed the skills of a painter, which traditions say he later used to illustrate his teachings. So he was using paintings to illustrate his teachings. And Fritz Springmeier and the other person he was conversing with in the video I watched today say that the occult groups use symbolism to communicate. And they're telling us everything. He even mentioned, like on the back of the $1 bill, the pyramid with the all-seeing eye above it is above it, not on it. So that means, apparently he says, that Lucifer, Satan, is working to regain his throne of earth. And lately, Fritz Springmeier said, there have been pictures of pyramids with the capstone sitting on the pyramid, which means, apparently, he has taken control and is in power and is on his throne. So at the beginning of 2018, it might be a little scary. And that might be important to realize that the Bible says in that document I just showed you. I'm not trying to create fear here, because I think if you do believe in God, or in my case, Christian, calling on Jesus, I think we are protected. And the worst case that can happen to any of us is they kill the physical body. It's the spiritual body we need to worry about. Just saying, all these years of research, it's not all about reptilian aliens or Pleiadians or some kind of nice beings. There's a lot of evil going on. The 5G microwave transmission network dumping chemicals in the sky, toxins in the vaccines, in the water, fluoride, and so much more. We are under attack. So it just might behoove us all to take a recheck here at the beginning of 2018 and start paying attention and talking to God and talking to your friends and family. Because I believe there's a lot of power in prayer. Again, I never started this material to become a preacher. But when you learn what you're learning and you share what you're learning with these books, it is what it is. Alright, so he was using his painting skills to illustrate his teachings and acquired the knowledge of astronomy and mathematics for which he would be renowned. When Manny reached the age of 24, the twin appeared to him and announced, "The time has now come for thee to manifest thyself publicly and to proclaim the doctrine aloud." Next, says Manny, the twin delivered separately and pulled me away from the midst of that law in which I was reared. So this angel being was taking him away from the religion that he was raised on. In this way he called, chose, and drew, and severed me from their midst, drawing me to the divine side. He also initiated Manny into the Gnostics. So this is the religion of all of the secret societies, apparently, according to Fritz Springmeier and other material, with the video I was watching this morning. The Freemasons are like the glove if the Illuminati is the hand. When you put a glove on the hand, you can't see the hand. So the Illuminati is the hand, and the Freemasons all over the world, lodges everywhere, city, towns, no matter where you go, is the glove. That's the relationship. They're the front for the Illuminati. And they worship in these satanic demonic cults called the mystery religion, and also the Kabbalah, even witchcraft and all these other cults. I'm learning as I go here. That's why I keep reading these books and sharing. Concerning me, who I am, and who is my inseparable twin is, and who my Father on high is, and in what way, severed from him, I was sent out according to his purpose, and what sort of counsel he has given me before. I clothe myself in this instrument, the body, and before I was led astray to this detestable flesh. So these cults want us to believe that being in the flesh is detestable. Moreover, concerning my soul, which exists as the soul of all the worlds, both what is itself is and how it came to be, besides these, he revealed to me the boundless heights of the unfathomable depths. He revealed mysteries hidden to the world, which are not permitted for anyone to see or hear. He showed me all. Hence, Manichaeism, and he was told by the angel to leave the religion that he belonged to. So Mani and the Magi. It was at this point around 240 AD, 240 years after Jesus' birth, that Mani, a sleeper at last awakened, began his preaching mission. It's been freezing and sleeting here in the mountains of North Carolina. I have a slight cold, sore throat. But I felt like making a video. He began preaching this mission. What he was preaching was distinctly not Zoroastrianism or Ardeshir, one champion of the Zoroastrian faith as the official religion of Persia, Iran, was still on the throne. Mani seems to have fallen foul of the Magi almost immediately and to have been forced into exile. So the Magi would be the existing priest leaders of the Zoroastrian faith. So he was fallen foul of the Magi and forced into exile. He traveled to India, by all accounts propagating his teachings with great success there, and returned to the Persian Gulf in 241. So we know what's been happening since 911 in the Middle East, the Persian Gulf. The destruction of almost every country. Like I said, all these things are connecting the dots. There's a purpose for what's going on today. Propagating his teachings with great success there, and returned via the Persian Gulf in 241, the year of Ardeshir's death, the leader of Persia. Somehow Mani managed to convert Firuz, Ardeshir's son, and through him obtained a personal audience with the elder son Shapur, who shortly afterwards succeeded the throne of King Shapur. So somehow he managed to befriend the son of the new leadership when the previous king or leader of Persia died. At the coronation, Mani was permitted to come forward to proclaim his own spiritual message, an unprecedented honor. And on either 21 March or 9 April 243, the date is disputed by historians, according to this book, Shapur issued a letter authorizing Mani to preach as he wished, protecting him throughout the Persian Empire. Thereafter, freed from all obstructions, Manichaeism won converts at a phenomenal rate. And I believe this is what's going on right now with the New Age material and the efforts to destroy Christianity, Islamic religion, and other religions. Something huge is happening, causing intense resentment and jealousy among the Zoroastrian priesthood. There was a backlash, and later in Shapur's reign, it seemed that by the Magi, the priest, persuaded the king to exile Mani a second time. But in 272, following Shapur's death, Mani returned to Persia and was welcomed by the latest successor to the throne, King Hormuz, who once again extended royal favor to him. Remember, he's getting his teaching from this angel. Hormuz's reign lasted barely a year, and Bahram I, who succeeded to the throne in 273, was a strong supporter of the old Zoroastrian faith. He reversed the policy of tolerance towards Manichaeism and began to persecute its leaders and followers. In 276, his officers arrested Mani at Gundenshafar in southwestern Persia. The self-styled apostle of God was then subjected to 4 days of Inquisition style interrogation, like the Inquisition, style interrogation by the Magi, and declared to be a Zandik, which is a heretic. A month of imprisonment and heavy change followed, after which he was flayed alive. They skinned him alive and then decapitated. His head was impaled on the city gate, from which his skin, stuffed with straw, was also suspended. What remained of his body was thrown to the dogs. Some serious stuff here. Get this book and read it. Talisman. No doubt the level of brutality in his execution was commensurate with the level of the threat that the Magi saw in Mani's new religion. So this new cult, this mystery religion, taught to him by some angel appearing out of thin air like lightning, the existing religion of Zoroastrianism saw this as a threat, which was everywhere overtaking them. So this religion, that Manichaeism that Mani was teaching, was spreading everywhere. A couple hundred years after Jesus' birth, Christianity was spreading everywhere. And just as was the case with the destruction of Cartharism, these are followers of Manichaeism. It changes names as it moves to different areas, and people pick up the information. So Cartharism is a derivative of Manichaeism, so it seems. And the Roman Church, 1,000 years later, were trying to destroy Cartharism. A determined attempt was made by the Zoroastrians to wipe out Manichaeism completely. So this religious battle, my point here, has been going on a while. And apparently the spiritual world is real. And apparently they don't want people to believe in religion and talk to God and be decent, God-fearing, God-loving, family-valued citizens. They prefer the Pizzagate, pedophilia, and human trafficking and controlling the economy, destroying people's whole lives. What, 8 times since 1913 when the Rothschilds Illuminati took over the USA money supply? After not having control for 30 or 40 years, in which several presidents were killed and several were poisoned, they regained control in 1913, December 21, and 6 months later they were able to start World War I because they had taken control of the USA. Woodrow Wilson was their man, and President Taft, prior to Wilson, was asked to participate, but he refused, apparently. And they said, okay, the next president we will control. And apparently the Zionist, elitist, banker, Jewish people into these occults, not all Jewish people. And I'm sure all these people who were into these occults weren't all Jewish. But they were into this, and They had so much power and money they could put Woodrow Wilson in there, who was a high-level degree Mason. All right, they did not succeed. So the Zoroastrians from Persia, Iran, wanted to wipe out Manichaeism back then. They did not succeed. Before his imprisonment and execution, Mani had already sent out his 12 disciples and host of followers to all the corners of the known world. So Mani was taught by the angel. He's in prison, but he tells his 12 people that he initiated into this secret religion, this cult. He sends them out all over the world to teach. That's where they get the different names by these teachers, probably. Catharism was probably nice, some guy named Cather. And as I've been following this material, that seems to be the case. So don't let the names confuse you. In addition to continuing persecutions by the Zoroastrian state after year 276, prompted a large-scale migration of Manichaean communities. Some traveled deep into China. So I'm just wondering what the Manichaeism has to do with the Hebrew Jewish people migrating to China and all over the world. Are these all one and the same groups? My mind works when I'm reading this stuff. Where Mani's religion would survive in remote enclaves until as late as the 16th century, the 1500s. Others infiltrated eastern parts of the Roman Empire and the Roman colonies of North Africa, and eventually all the immense territories under Rome's control as far as Britain. So this Manichaeism was spreading everywhere, later called the Cathars. So eventually, as far as Britain, though at times violently opposed by Rome, even before its conversion to Christianity. Remember, Rome didn't embrace Christianity till around almost 400 AD, 400 years after Jesus. So this Manichaeism religion was running rampant at 276 year after Jesus' birth. There was a lot going on back then. Manichaeism won immense popularity throughout the empire and was particularly well representative in North African colonies. So this religion, Manichaeism, where Mani got the information from an angel, was well represented in the North African colonies and went as far as Britain, even probably causing some bothersome troubles in Rome. And Rome was having its own troubles, so it finally embraced Christianity and made it the law of the land and brutally enforced that with the Crusades and so much more, and the Inquisitions. It was in North Africa that it acquired its almost famous follower, Augustine, later Saint Augustine of Hippo, born in AD 354, the son of a pagan father and a Christian mother. He became a Manichaean auditor, or Hera, in AD 377, equivalent to joining the Cathar class of credence. He held to the Manichaean faith for 9 years after abandon. He held to the faith for 9 years, then abandoned it in 386, and was baptized as a Christian in 387. He returned to North Africa, where he formed a religious community and was appointed Bishop of Hippo in 396. He lived to see the fall of Rome to the Vandals in 410. When he died in 430, Vandal forces had crossed the Mediterranean and was besieging Hippo itself. Like many converts, Augustine zealously detested his former faith. During his long and influential career as one of the great doctors of the Church, he wrote extensively condemning Manichaeism and the Manicheans. His anti-Manichean tracts survived the ages and played an important part in shaping the attitudes of the medieval Roman Catholics to the Cathar heresy. As we saw in Chapter 2, Catharism was frequently identified in the 12th and 13th centuries as a resurgence of the same Manichaeism that Augustine had censored in the 4th century. Wow, that's 1,000 years. A conclusion that modern scholars reject. Nevertheless, this author says, the Cathar and Manichaeism religions were, in our views, similar enough in their essentials to make the medieval identification understandable and worth further consideration. Just trying to connect the dots here. There's more information here. As you can see, I've highlighted and lined some stuff in red in these next 2 pages. So I must have found it shocking to do that when I read. All right, page 82. The title, The Cosmos According to Mani. I'm learning some more things here, especially reading this book. And this book, The Secrets of the Zodiacs in Washington, D.C. All over Washington, D.C. are zodiac symbolisms, constellations. Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius. There's something to this astrology that's part of this mystery religion, some belief. Certain things are done on certain dates, like 9/11. But these symbols are all over Washington, D.C., just like all those symbols are in Prague, Germany. Forget how many, 462 or whatever, of some kind of demonic beings and symbols. They're all over Washington, D.C. A lot of people know that, like the all-seeing eye and the pyramid on the $1 bill. And like I said earlier, apparently Fritz Springmeier believes the cap is separated from the pyramid, the eye, because Lucifer didn't have his throne yet, control of the earth. But apparently he says he's been seeing some of these depictions by the secret societies with the cap on the pyramid, meaning that these evil forces have taken control of our world, which might explain all the blatant unveiling of all these satanic symbols, like the Archway of Baal or the statue of the devil in Detroit, and the Kali, the goddess of destruction, on the Empire State Building, and the projection of a gigantic goat on the Hoover Dam, with Conchita Wurst winning the Eurovision contest, singing the song The Phoenix Rising with the words "You Can't Stop Us," the Swiss Alps tunnel opening ceremony I've shown, with actually horns and demons falling from the sky, Super Bowl halftime shows, Madonna, Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, so many more, with all these Indiana Jones-like demonic rituals, Emmys, Grammys, Olympic openings. Oh my, what's going on? So it talks about the cosmos here, astrology, astronomy. Then we hear about Nibiru coming, pole shifting, globalism, global warming, global cooling, climate change, droughts, sustainability, biodiversity, terrorism, evil Christians because they're haters, because they're not embracing homosexuality, transgenderism. It's all kind of weird. But let me read on. The cosmos, according to Manny. One of the notions upon which Manichaeism is founded is that there existed from the beginning of time two gods. Manichaeism preaches two gods, uncreated and eternal and everlasting, opposed to each other. Well, that's interesting. Might explain why these evil gods don't want the rest of us to pray to and talk to and believe in and seek the good God. One is the good God of evil and darkness, and the other the good God of good and light. The realm of light was the uppermost and was without bounds in height and on each side. The realms of darkness lay below. It's similarly boundless in depth and on each side. For untold ages, neither was aware of the other's existence. But in the bowels of darkness was Satan, with his disorderly, anarchical, restless brood of demonic powers. So Satan's realm is anarchy and chaos. And remember, President George Bush Sr. said in his famous speech, out of chaos and anarchy will come the New World Order. A world ruled by law. But whose law? Disorderly, anarchical, restless brood of demonic powers. There was constant agitation, chaos, and turmoil, as in the heart of a black thunderstorm, and at some point the Prince of Darkness rose up through the abyss, perceived the light of the upper world, and conceived a hatred for it. Visualizing this, I'm reminded of that movie Thor. If you've seen it, there's a follow-up movie after that too. Returning to the depths, he prepared his forces. Then again, springing upward, he invaded the realms of light with the intentions of their spreading calamity and destruction. Well, I can understand why the Zoroastrians would have wanted to destroy Manichaeisms. I can understand why Rome would want to destroy the Cathars if this was the religious teaching. And that's what it means when they teach that stuff I've showed with the Freemasons. Where it says on the books, on the bottom here, equality and liberty and fraternity. You know what a fraternity is? It's a cult, it's a group. And they want equality and liberty is what they teach. But look at those entities on each side. One with the naked woman, and the other one with the Ankh, the T, in the middle of this guy's feet, means divine. The circle on top means serpent. That means divine serpent. And you can see below his neck a serpent. Divine serpent. Wasn't it a serpent in the Garden of Eden? All this stuff connects. Remember, Graham Hancock's a lot smarter guy than I. His one specialty was in all this stuff. So when I was reading this, I'm like, oh my, I should probably pay attention. Maybe I'll get a clue what's going on. Like the later Cathars, the Bogomils. The Bogomils were another derivative of Manichaeisms with this teaching. Many saw the human body as part of an evil creation. So these people think the human body is an evil creation, within which sparks of the light have been imprisoned. So sparks of the light would be our souls, and he believes that our souls are imprisoned in these evil creation bodies. What do you think? Like the Cathars and the Bogomils, he taught that sexual reproduction and reincarnation are the mechanisms of which the cycle of imprisonment is perpetuated. So I guess as humans having babies, which become avatars for souls, it just goes on and on and on and on, and year after year people have babies and some people die and they get reincarnated, and they want to stop that. And also, like the Cathars, the Bogomils, he believed that by abstinence and prayer, this imprisoned light could gradually be released. But that we must pass through many incarnations and much pain before it would happen. Such resemblances of the religion of the medieval dualist became all the clearer when we realized, as Yuri Shavov confirms, that light and darkness in Manichaeism cosmology are metaphors for the spirit and matter. It was the fusion of these two contrary principles at the beginning of the present cycle of time which caused the imprisonment and suffering of the soul in the first place. The details of exactly how the imprisonment was achieved, how fragments of the light, our spirit, came to be trapped in darkness, and how good ended up mixed with evil, how souls were enwrapped in matter, may have more to do with the inspiration of individual storytellers than anything else. We know that this was the tradition that made broad use of colorful symbols, myths, and parables as teaching aids. So they use colorful symbols. We've all seen them. Corporate logos, the rising sun, the sun's rays, pyramids, triangles, all-seeing eye. But the point in the final analysis is that the medieval dualists of Europe, exactly like the Manichaeisms of Persia centuries earlier, envisioned man as a mixed creature who must fight a constant war within himself in order to subdue his baser elements and to perfect and liberate his soul. So this is their belief. It's not my belief. I did take Psychology 101 and 102 in community college, and I am aware of something called rationalization. People don't know how other people think if they're not like them. But people who are pedophilias, rapists, murderers, thieves, they don't walk around thinking they're bad. They rationalize. What they think is that they're doing it because everybody else is doing it. That's why when somebody seems to have those words coming out of their mouth all the time, oh, I saw that guy looking at that girl. Oh, he's leering at that girl. He's looking at that girl. That guy's a peeper. The person who's saying that is likely the one who's actually guilty of that. Another person might say that person's a thief. Oh, she's a thief. Oh, he stole something. They rationalize. They think that everybody's a thief because they're a thief. And so on and so on. It's a warped way of the mind thinking. It's how they deal with being evil. They think it's the way to be. I suppose a wolf doesn't feel guilty for attacking a sheep and eating it. He thinks it's the way it is. So it is something to do with our spiritual selves and some kind of spiritual guiding within ourselves. And I think people can get caught up in the dark side and become possessed, as it says in the Bible and many other books I've gone over. reptilian aliens, gray aliens, watchers, archons, all these beings. The Palladians talk about the Orions, the tall whites, the oranges, the glowing orbs. What is this other reality? That's what I'm trying to get at. We need to wake up and pay attention that it does exist. That we are spiritual beings in these bodies. That's what the Avatar movie was all about. Prometheus, did you see that movie? So many movies kind of give us clues. It was to get this point across that the Cathars and Bogomils told stories of angels who had fallen downwards from the pure spiritual realm of heaven to the impure material realm of earth. In the parallel Manichaeism myth, the Prince of Darkness, with his demons, rushed upwards out of the abyss to attack and destroy the light. So in 1960s, New York City, Christmas time, they had all these gigantic crosses of lights illuminated on the building. And now they put the goddess of destruction, Kali, and all these other demonic symbols everywhere. So I guess we can say somebody has taken control of Earth. So it seems. So forceful and impetuous was this onslaught that the evil one, wielding the malign powers of smoke, fire, wind, and water, and darkness as his weapons, broke through the defenses and encroached upon the light. The Father of Light defended his realm by invoking a proxy. The primal man, and arming him with the luminous power of air, wind, light, and water, and fire. So the Father of Light, the good God, invoked a proxy, the primitive man, and arming him with the luminous power of air, wind, light, and water. The battle was joined, Satan was victorious, and the primal man lay in a death-like trance, and elements of the luminous powers that he had been armed with were now engulfed and eaten by the forces of darkness. Now, let's be clear here. I'm not trying to preach this as a gospel or something I believe in. I'm just sharing what apparently these cults and entities believe. And it might behoove us if we're aware of what they believe, what this New Age is all about. Next, the Father of Light created further emanations or proxies. Amongst them, the living spirit, identified with the pre-Zoroastrian Iranian god Mithra. I made a video recently on the god Mithra, and a figure called the Great Architect. Together they revived and rescued the primal man and began the work of recovering for the light and the luminous powers that had been consumed by the forces of darkness, a task described as saving the living soul from the burning house of matter. So they think this reality of matter, Earth, is evil. They want to destroy it. And of course, they're dumping chemicals in the sky, chemtrailing, and all kinds of other toxins and pollutions. Virtually, it seems, if you go outside and look in the forest or check on the internet, even in California with the fires, they're saying they're using directed energy weapons. 911, Judy Wood in her big thick book says they use directed energy weapons. And so much more. Dane Wigington, geoengineeringwatch.org, says they're controlling the weather with HAARP transmitters and chemicals, dumping stuff in the sky. They're destroying the environment and all living things. Seems to me they're trying to take away any resources for we the people to survive if they bring about some huge catastrophic event. They don't want people to live off the nature. Hence, all the stuff is dying, and foods are becoming genetically modified. Non-replicating seeds. Why would they do that? The diabolical counterattack against the works of the living spirit and the great architect involved the creation of Adam and Eve. To fortify, as Stonio puts it, the imprisonment of the light elements through the lust and production of the human species. But the realm of light sent a Savior to Adam, who made him aware of the light existing within himself. So who made Adam and Eve wake up? It was the serpent who told them to eat the apple that God said to not eat. And here it's saying their religion, they believe, that the realm of light sent a Savior to Adam, who made him aware of the light existing within himself, i.e., his immortal soul, and caused him to rebel against the evil one who had fashioned his body. So are they saying the God who told Adam and Eve not to eat the tree of the apple, the evil God, and the serpent who told them to do it is being called the good God? Is this the way they believe? Ever since the human race has remained in the principal battleground for the forces of light and darkness, the Savior sent to Adam is called Jesus, the Splendor. I don't remember Jesus going to see Adam and Eve. In the Manichaean text, so this is in the Manichaeism teaching. As time passes, other saviors are sent, each of them to renew the Gnostics needed to awaken man to his true condition. So remember, the secret societies control our world. Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Illuminati, Zionists, even the high-level Vatican. A lot of low-level Masons, and most Christians don't know anything about this. Even in the Islamic religion, the average everyday person wants to be a good person. But there are forces who have gained control of everything. As time passes, other saviors are sent, each of them to renew the Gnostics needed to awaken man to his true condition. Earlier, we listed some of the household names amongst these saviors: Zoroaster, Hermes, Plato, Buddha, Jesus Christ, and last but not least, Mani. Other lists echo the spread of Manichaeism in Hebraic cultures. Okay, here it gets the Manichaeism gets into the Hebrews, the Jews' culture. Could this be part of the Kabbalah, which were accused of sorcery, witchcraft? Apparently have the elements of sacrificing humans in some of their religious ritual ceremonies. Hebraic cultures and features Seth, Enoch. Even in the channeled material I go over with Jane Roberts, channeling Seth. I'm going to go over the channeled material again, and again, and again, so that I get it. And I'll share what I learn on the videos. And I don't expect everybody to believe me. I expect people to take notes and look it up for themselves. And I do thank people for all the comments I get and contributions of information. I'm trying to put together a book, so I've been re-releasing my videos where there are very few comments, so that I can solicit some newer comments of intelligent, important information to help us all get a grip on what reality is all about. What's the truth? Seth, Enoch, like Hermes, frequently identified with the Egyptian wisdom god Thor. Remember the Thor movie recently? And the Egyptian columns there, the entities, the Ankh underneath there, the Egyptian hieroglyphics, the pyramid, equality, liberty, fraternity, New Age. This is a Freemasonic magazine. Published for 100 years. You can go online and get these. The evidence is clear. So the Egyptian wisdom god Thor, Noah, Abraham, and again Mani. Similarly, the eastward expansion of Manichaeism is reflected in other formations that refer to Mani as the Buddha of light, or the reincarnation of Lei Tao, the founder of Taoism. In all cases and in all lists, Mani is extolled as the seal of the prophets. It is he who brings the final message, the final revelation, and the final Gnostic, through which mankind is to complete the great work of freeing the last elements of light from the prisons of darkness. So if they believe our spirits, spark of light of God, is encased in these bodies, which is evil, and they want to release it, I guess they have to maybe nuke the planet, release a plague, depopulate the planet, all the things we've been discussing. They want to kill all the people so they can release our spiritual essence. What do you think? Are you for that? I'm not. I do know that we don't get off planet Earth alive. And I've showed you those pages of promises to those who believe in the beginning of this video. You know, people should probably pick up the Bible. I used to pick it up and just randomly see where my fingers took me. And usually it was at the right place or something I needed to read. I do believe in the spiritual powers. I'm not interested in trying to be a religious teacher. I'm trying to find out what's going on. Why are they doing these weird things? Why are they dumping chemicals in the sky? Why are they crashing the economy whenever they feel like it and reaping in billions and trillions and destroying people's lives? Why are they seemingly planning on World War III? Globalism, New Age, New World Order, promoting homosexuality. Even some people, lawyers, are trying to reduce the age of consent so that it's legally okay to have sex with children. Who are these entities? Oh my. What's all this information about reptilians and gray aliens? CERN. All that symbolism. The archways of Baal. It's supposed to be some kind of portal. Is this dumping chemicals in the sky and the 5G electromagnetic microwave network all some kind of witchcraft magic machine being put in place? A great invocation? Opening up this world to the demonic world? It just might behoove us, we the people, to ask these questions. Back to the book. This work, as described in the almost alchemical in character. Funny I mentioned witchcraft. Almost alchemical in character. That's magic. An intricate, gradual process of distillation down the ages, incarnation after incarnation, channeling the light away from the dark, purifying the soul from its contamination with matter. So we're contaminated because we're in contact with matter, because our souls are in these bodies. The denouncement is our realization that the physical earth of which we live was brought into existence as the theater or laboratory in which this process of endless, painstaking refinement could unfold. And for no other purpose. Wow, so the whole earth was created so there could be this endless, painstaking refinement could unfold. And for no other purpose. Manichaeism, Catharism, mystery religion, Kabbalah, witchcraft, secret societies. No wonder they don't want us to know what they're doing. Finally, using all the light thus reclaimed, the great architect and the living spirit, assisted by the souls of the Manichaeism elect, are to construct a new paradise and a spiritual earth to replace the dark laden husk of the old material creation that will fall away at the completion of the project. So apparently there is a project to destroy everything, to create a spiritual earth, not a material one. All right, the next paragraph here starts out with, if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it's probably a duck. I've said that before in my videos. You know, you read enough of this stuff, I mean, it is what it is. You see the symbolisms, you see the TV programming Lucifer, Modern Family, you see the attack on Christianity. You see President Donald Trump say last week that the attack on Christianity is over. So he's admitting there was one, or there is one. So like President John Kennedy or Abraham Lincoln, you know, they might have to do something to stop him. Because these evil forces are determined, I suspect. Look at all the symbolism. Although the Manichaeans, Bogomils, Cathars told different stories about the human predicament, we suggest that closer examination shows that they share a deep and abiding theme. At the heart of it all, for every believer, and perfect, for every hearer and elect, that's the names of these different levels of the hierarchy. We call them priests or popes in our religion, and Baptists call them ministers, but they call their priests and popes and ministers, they call them believer, would be a normal citizen, a perfect would be somebody higher, a hearer or an elect would be somebody higher, was a desire to live in the world in such a way as to minimize spiritual pollution and to improve, strengthen, purify, and ultimately, after great struggle, liberate the soul. In all cases, this involved accepting and following a system and working within a structure, and these were remarkably the same from the early days of Manichaeism in the 3rd century AD to the final crushing of medieval dualism in Europe more than 1,000 years later. So there has been some strange history on Earth, the Dark Ages, and of course the Crusades, then the Inquisition, and of course French Revolution, Russian Revolution, Chinese Revolution, so many other revolutions, death and destruction all over the planet. World War I, World War II, and it seems like they're planning for something seriously catastrophic next, and it looks like they're destroying the environment, so there's nothing left for us to drink or eat after. Whatever happens, happens when they turn out the lights. And they plan on building this new society, a spiritual world. They're opposed to this dense matter, our physical bodies. Interesting. Just like the Bogomil and the Cathar churches, the Manichaean church was divided into two principal categories. There were the ordinary, the rank and the file adherents who could marry, have children, own property, eat meat, and drink wine. So those were the believers. Then there was a small, highly committed elite of celibate, teetotal vegetarians who lived in personal poverty and renounced all the material pleasures of life. Sounds like a lot of that stuff I've been going over, where people are initiated into these secret societies, like the Rosicrucians and the teachings of the Freemasons, morals and dogma, so much more. The rank and file were known as the heroes, and the elite as the elect, concepts identical in all respects to the believers and perfect of the medieval dualist. Indeed, among the Manichaeism, the term perfect was used interchangeably with the elect. Continuing on, page 84. Like the Cathar and Bogomil Perfecti, the Manichaean elect could be men or women and always traveled in adept disciple pairs. I know the Mormons, when I was living up in Maine, 2 young women came to my home, and I didn't think much about it then, but they wanted to talk to me about, I guess, the Mormon religion. They had these name tags. One said Brigham and the other one said Young, and I thought that was their last name. I found out Brigham Young was part of the Mormon cult deities or prophets or leaders. It was very weird. They had Brigham and Young as name tags on their clothes. 2 young women wanted to talk to me. I just dismissed them and said, no, thank you. I was doing my research back then in 2008. I had quite a library. I had opened up an office in Bangor, Maine. And fortunately for me, an antique bookstore was across the street, which started me on the path of my research. So convenient. So I do believe the higher power acts in mysterious ways. To all of us. I think we're all a bit psychic. We're all spiritual beings in these biological bodies. I guess it's just a matter of which side we want to be on. The pedophilia, homosexual, transgenderism, do anything you want, hating materialism, chaos and anarchy side, or Jesus and God, the commandments, and we are to love one another. To keep it simply put. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think people should be killing each other, stealing from each other. What a world it would be if the evil forces weren't doing what they were doing. If the U.S. economy hadn't been crashed 8 times since 1913. Where would this country be today? And these huge corporations dumping all the chemicals in the rivers and the lakes, even the military. The stories are everywhere. Now they're using directed energy weapons, so it seems, to destroy and attack cities and countries and weather control. Toxins and pollutants and herbicides, pesticides, destroying everything. And maybe this religious explanation I'm going over here, their hatred for materialism, can tell us why, and this new order, spiritual world they want to bring about. And like the perfecti, the elect pass through a strict process of initiation, culminating in a ceremony comparable to the consummentum, whatever that means. Following this initiation, they were considered to be full of light, initiated, and therefore must do nothing to contaminate this inner light with the dark of earthly things. For the Manichaean elect, that included doing no agricultural work, not even such a simple task as breaking bread. It involved leading a wandering, penniless existence, possessing only food for a day and clothes for the year, completely dependent upon the charity of the hearers, who, by joining the Manichaean church, took an obligation to care for the elect. So the people who joined this Manichaeism, Cathar, Bogomil church, the ordinary citizens had to take a pledge to take care of the elect leaders. Although the Cathar and Bogomil perfecti did break bread for themselves, they too led wandering, penniless lives and were dependent upon the charity of the believers, who likewise had a duty to care for them. So the Cathars, the Bogomils, were apparently derivatives of Manichaeism. And there are some other names and organizations mentioned in this book. And I'm only trying to read a couple of pages here, so you can get the idea, if you're interested in finding out what's going on in our reality, what these cult believers believe, and why Christianity and Islamic religion and other peoples all over the world are under attack. The general theme of many books I've been going over are showing bits and pieces of this stuff. Moreover, even Bernard Hamilton, though not normally a fan of the continuing tradition, had to admit that. The Manichaeisms had required the elect to observe an ascetic rule of life. So I had to look up ascetic. Apparently, it's a severe self-discipline and abstinence. And their reasons for doing so were identical to those of the Bogomils, springing from a conviction that the material creation was evil. Well, that's nice to know. They control the world. They got the nuke weapons, and they're dumping chemicals in our sky, bringing us the 5G microwave transmission network, and they believe the material creation is evil. Many taught that messengers like Zoroaster, Buddha, and Jesus, to whose line he also claimed to belong, had been sent to earth out of sympathy for mankind to remove the clouds of ignorance from our minds and to teach us truth and to rescue the light in us, i.e. our shining souls, from darkness and evil. Again, these are themes that are entirely familiar from the dualism of the Cathars and the Bogomils. So I suspect these forces who have these religious beliefs are the ones at work right now with these secret societies that control our world. The reader will recall that the Cathars and Bogomils, believing Jesus to have been a spiritual emanation of the good God, could not accept that he had ever been born in the flesh, therefore concluded that he must have been an apparition sent directly down from the heavenly realms. So even with the gray aliens, apparently many abductees says they just pop into existence and pop out of existence. Even UFOs, they say that, walk through walls. So these Cathars, Bogomils, Manichaeisms think that Jesus didn't come in the flesh, that he was an apparition, looked very fleshy and real. That's what they think. Remember, I'm not trying to teach this as truth. I want to get into the minds of these people and see what they think. The identical idea was voiced by Manny, who preached centuries earlier that Jesus was not born of woman, but came forth from the Father of light and descended from heaven in the form of a man aged about 30. And on another interesting note, what does it matter if Jesus came in the flesh or if he did come from the other world and was manifested? They're acknowledging he was real, number one. So how many people out there have been mind controlled that he didn't exist? And number two, wouldn't it be important to pay attention to what he taught? Does it matter if he appeared as a being from God's world or he was born in a body through a virgin birth? Does it matter? To me, it's like the argument is the world flat or spinning. And I'm going, somebody's distracting us. Does it matter? The sun comes up every day and the sun goes down every day. And we can enjoy our life and grow a garden or go water skiing, go to the movies, and live the life of an adventure. Does it really matter with the argument of the flat earth or round earth? But we all know, like 9/11 and the moon landings, there's a lot of deception. The cause of World War I, World War II, French Revolution, so much more. There's a lot of deception. It's going on now. Back to the book. The body in which he appeared was an illusion. This is what they teach. And so accordingly was the crucifixion. So they're saying the crucifixion was just an illusion. In one Manichaeism text, he even appears afterwards to his disciple John, who is grief-stricken at the supposed death of his master, and informs him that the crucifixion was a spectacle, a phantasmagoria, a phantasm, in a sort of kind of miracle play performed to impress the masses. Like I said, Graham Hancock and the other author here, Robert Bauval, smarter people than me, all these books they've published, all that research their entire lives. Me, as a everyday citizen, like people watch my videos, we can think. We can use our common sense. We don't have to continue to be fools and be deceived, do we? We should be asking questions and demanding answers. Why are they dumping chemicals in the sky? The old saying, don't mess with Mother Nature, applies. The electromagnetic transmissions, wireless, and even increasing cell phone usage, and even turning up the amperage and wattage. Microwaves are dangerous. You wouldn't put your infant or hand in a microwave and turn it on. Why would they want to make a whole city microwave? And be dumping heavy metals with tiny little spores that get in our bodies and in some people cause Magellan's disease, little worms that start crawling through the skin. Apparently we're all affected with this. Apparently it's intentional. Despite their conviction that material life was evil, the Cathars, Bogomils, and Manichaeisms all showed great respect for life and opposed causing pain or suffering of any kind to fellow creatures, whether human or animal. All believe in reincarnation. All forbade the use of images and worshipped only through prayers and hymns. We know that the Cathars and the Bogomils looked with horror on the Old Testament and regarded its God Jehovah as the devil. So they regarded the God of the Jews, Jehovah, as the devil, and so did the Manichaeisms, and Mani himself had declared, get this, it is the Prince of Darkness who spoke with Moses, and the Jews and their priest. Thus the Christians, the Jews, and the pagans are involved in the same era when they worship this God. For he led them astray in the lust that he taught them, since he was not of the God of truth. All right, we've got just another page to read. The title of this paragraph is Connecting the Cathars to the 1st century A.D. Until the early 20th century, scholars were obliged to rely almost exclusively on the works of the persecutors of Manichaeism in order to reconstruct the lost Manichaeism religion that those very prosecutors had destroyed. But intact ancient Manichaeism texts discovered in the Far East in the 1920s and in Egypt in the 1970s have added greatly to our store of knowledge. In consequence, it is now generally accepted that Christian Gnosticism, heretofore allocated a relatively minor role in the intellectual parentage of Manichaeisms, may in fact have been the single most decisive influence on Mani's thinking. H.J.W. Drivers goes as far as to suggest that even the term Christian Gnosticism is misleading. It has usually been assumed that the Christian elements of Manichaeism reached Mani through a Gnostic filter. It is rather more in agreement that the historical situation and development during the 3rd century to assume that Mani and Manichaeism heavenly drew upon the whole of Christian traditions and literature extant at that time without any restrictions to a supposedly Gnostic strain. In other words, if Manichaeism, as it is now understood, reveals an overwhelmingly influence from Gnostic Christianity, Gnostic means rebelling against and breaking free of the conformity set forth by the religious dogma. Gnosticism is an ancient heresy that divided the church in the 2nd and 3rd centuries and contradicts Christian doctrine. Some notes I went and looked up what these words mean. You read this word Gnostic and you go, what does that really mean? So you go look it up and you can get a couple different definitions. Rebelling against and breaking free of the conformity set forth by religious dogma. So they would like us to believe today, like teachings of Jesus in the Bible, Christianity, and even probably the Islamic people, Muslims, and other religions, that it's all dogma. These religious churches and leaders are lying to you and cheating. And even in the 1920s, they had congressional hearings with the communists. They said they were going to infiltrate the educational institutions and economy and religions and destroy it from within. And they do have like George Bush Sr. said, they want to bring about a world of chaos and anarchy. And like it says here, on the bottom of this Scottish Rite magazine, The New Age, they want to bring about liberty and equality and free our spiritual selves from these nasty, evil material bodies. Maybe I'm right on some of this, maybe I'm wrong, but it is a conversation. I'm reading the words line by line. It's not me I'm trying to show. Go buy this book. Let's give the credit where credit is due. This guy spent years of his life writing these books. That's why I go over and do these book reviews. How many people would know this material exists? How do people get a clue? Figure it out. Now remember, half the books I go over are meant to mislead us and teach wrong things. And the other half of the books I go over are trying to expose the deceivers. But I have to see what they say. Like even Helena Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine. It's not the Bible. That's not what I believe in, but I want to know what she's preaching. Listening to the channelers. Preaching Lee Carroll, channeling Chiron. Jane Roberts, channeling Seth. And so many of the others I've been going over. Even the stuff Edgar Cayce talks about when he was in a trance. Where did he get that information? And so many more. Esther Hicks, channeling Abraham. And so many more. You can go online, look up channeled material, and I've got some videos on that. Alright, in other words, if Manichaeism is, as it is now understood, reveals an overwhelmingly influence of Gnostic Christianity. So this Christianity with some special secret knowledge, rebelling against or breaking free of the conformity set forth by the religious dogma. Gnosticism is an ancient heresy that divided the church in the 2nd and 3rd centuries and contradicts Christian doctrine. Then this is likely to be because the Christianity of Mani's time was in fact overwhelmingly Gnostic. And remember, the Hebrews, the Jews back then, whoever sent Jesus, of course I believe he's the Savior sent by God, the Bible says, but the people back then, the Pharisees, the leader of the Jews in King Solomon's temple, King Solomon had a magic ring with a 6-pointed star that he could call forth demons, is where he got his power. They rejected Jesus and had him crucified. At least we forget. A controversial conclusion that is nevertheless supported by much recent scholarship. In 1945, a great horde of hereto unknown Gnostic text from the early centuries of the Christian era was found in the Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt. So the Nag Hammadi text, I believe I've looked at that, in Upper Egypt. So they're finding all these documents, Dead Sea Scrolls, Book of Enoch, Nag Hammadi text, reading Zechariah Stitchins, interpreting the stones with the etchings on them, the cuneiform tablets, and scrolls found in jars. Whatever's going on, and a lot of people will agree on this, even during the after 9/11 and the invasion in Iraq, a lot of these archaeologists under government control with military assistance invaded the museums, and they were after stuff. So make no mistake, this is all connected. This is like an Indiana Jones movie conversation. Since the translation and eventual publication of the text in 1977, so this is pretty recent information, it has become apparent that Christianity's relationship with the Gnosticism goes back to the very beginnings of the Christian cult in the 1st century AD. Likewise, it is now obvious and widely accepted that the Christian Gnosticism was not some weird offshoot from the mainstream Christianity. On the contrary, it was part of the mainstream, perhaps even the major part, as we shall see in the next chapter. So maybe humanity's path could have gone either way. Could have gone towards this Manichaeism, Cathars, Bogomils. It was a contending religion with the startup Christianity that had been embraced 300, almost 400 years after Jesus' birth and crucifying him. Rome was losing its power, and it saw that Christianity was popular and growing, so it embraced it and then made it the force and the law of the land and started slaughtering people who didn't do it the way they were told to do. And then something happened. From the beginning of the 4th century AD, it had acquired state power. The church undertook a radical change of direction. So Rome, losing its power a couple of hundred years after Jesus' crucifixion, required the Christian, adopted it as the religion of the land. And let the killing begin, the crusades, all who don't agree. From the east and the west, and the north and the south. The free-thinking and sometimes anarchical approach to the Gnostics began to be frowned upon. Their allegorical interpretations of the scriptures were dropped in favor of literal ones. Persecutions for heresy began almost immediately. Could it possibly be true, as the Cathars always claimed, that this was the time when the authentic church of Christianity was forced underground and the impostor church of Rome was put in its place? So this teachings that I've been talking about in this book, what they believe, that somehow our spiritual entities, our sparks from God, have been imprisoned in these evil bodies. Whereas there's the correct teachings, and the Rome embracing Christianity was actually the evil one. An interesting conversation, you think? So they're saying, could the Manichaeisms, Bogomils, Cathars, could they be the true authentic church? Persecuted, outlawed, and oppressed, had nevertheless somehow managed to survive from the 4th century until its doctrines reappeared again 600 years later with the Bogomils. It seems like a long shot. Nevertheless, we've shown that a viable chain of transmissions exists connecting the central idea behind the Cathars and Bogomils, religion of the ideas of Mani and his Manichaeisms. Remember, an angel came and taught him the stuff he learned in the 3rd century AD. And if the primary influence on Mani was Christian Gnosticism, as these scholars now agree, then it is to the Gnostics we should look for the final links in the chain of the great heresy, in my opinion, which you can call the Great Deception. I think I'll just read one more little sentence here, paragraph, and end this video. Again, it's a conversation I'm having. I'm trying to show that there are secret societies, the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Illuminati, the Zionists, the elite banksters, a lot of people into this pedophilia, sacrificing children and other humans, does exist. There's plenty of whistleblowers on YouTube, people who came out of the Illuminati, came out of even witches' covens, and tell about even driving in a van and screeching over to the corner and grabbing some young girl to take it back to their lure to sacrifice her. They have to have all these religious ceremonies on periodic times every year. You can look up witchcraft holidays or Illuminati holidays, and you can get some information on these secret mystery religion holidays. You're going to find out they're all similar, coinciding with the solstices, the furthest point of the sun in the winter in the south, and back to the north, the summer solstice, and then the midway line, the equinox, is these certain cosmic astrological times where they have these ceremonies, and a lot of it entailed in astrology, positions of different planets and different constellations, bringing influences on mankind, which I've been reading this book. Blows me away. It's all connected. But all over Washington, D.C., they got all these zodiacs. Apparently, Washington, D.C. is under the sign of Virgo, just like if I'm an Aquarius and you're a Taurus or a Leo. They have cities that adopt these different signs, and they lay the foundation stones and the plans on a certain date so that it is a constellation Virgo. And apparently, London is under the constellation Saturn. Not the Sagittarius, not Saturn, but its planet is Saturn, which is supposed to be Satan. So I've got a long ways to go to try to figure this out. Will I ever get it figured out? People throughout history have tried to figure this stuff out. They wind up dying and never getting there. So I can't hope to get there, but I learn a little bit. All right, knowledge of the true nature of things, page 87, beginning of chapter 5. I'm just going to read this opening paragraph and leave it there. I shall use the term Gnosticism to indicate the ideas of a coherent system that are characterized by the absolute negative view of the visible world. Negative view of the visible world. Negative view of our world. And its creator, and the assumption of a divine spark in man. His inner self, which had become enclosed within the material body as a result of a tragic event. So it's a tragic event that my soul is in this body, that I get to go water skiing, surfing, sailing, eating lobster, having a cold beer. It's all materialistic evil, apparently. But it's these forces that control our planet that are polluting and destroying everything. There's no reason to mess with Mother Nature and dump chemicals in the sky. It can't be good for us. Everything else they do is detrimental to us. So I'm sure they're not dumping out vitamin C up there and trying to make us all healthy. Within the material body as a result of a tragic event in the pre-cosmo world, from which it can only escape to its divine origin by means of the saving Gnostics. These ideas are found in most of the original Gnostic writings, that have survived for a greater part of the Nag. Some of these writings have survived for the greater part of the Nag Hammadi Library, and that's Relef van den Broek, Emeritus Professor of the History of Christianity at the University of Utrecht. So if there's any point I made in this whole video, is there is this battle going on of philosophy. And part of that teaching is the New Age, and part of the destruction, like President Donald Trump said, you can go verify this, it's in main headlines in the news. He says the war on Christianity is over. A lot of people didn't want to admit there was a war on Christianity. So if you pay attention, you can see that what you think it is the way it is. We are under attack. Thank you for watching my video, and I wish everybody a great 2018. Maybe we ought to be talking to the God, higher power, because they don't want us to, for one reason. And number two, maybe that we're here on earth as a teaching thing, and we should remember that. And we need the spiritual realm, God's power, to escape this mess we're in right now. This new age and new world order, globalism, is coming at us like a freight train. And we've got to stop it. But if you believe in the Bible and believe in Jesus, as it says, he who believes in me shall be saved. So that's a start. And again, this other material I've gone over here, you can go look this up. But there's so many promises in the Bible, promises to those who seek God. 6 pages of references. Chronicles 26. He sought God in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding in the visions of God, and as long as he sought the Lord, God made him prosper. So he sought the Lord, and the Lord took care of him. I'm trying to find out WTH. What the heck is going on? Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.